Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the GeekVerse 2022 Townhall. I'm Travis Snell, and I'm joined by
I am Kirklin Patzer. I just realized I have the as my name.
Kirklin Patzer.
Just
I'm
the
the
Kirkland
Heartcaster, Dylan Musk.
I'm the Town of Towns, Taylor Field.
Oh, jeez. How
that?
many of blanks are we going to get? I feel like I know you've always done
it's
them,
my
Field of
gimmick
Fields,
now.
but I feel like, these past 2 months, specifically this month, it's been all over the map.
I'm running with it.
He's trying to turn into V from V for Vendetta. Just speaking alliterations only.
Wow. That's
I respect it.
The voracious and vigorous.
Is it really alliteration if you're just saying the same word over and over again?
No, I don't think so. That doesn't
It's
count
plural.
to me.
Singular to plural
Yeah.
version. Two different words.
Peter Parker's
Okay, you got
alliteration.
me.
Peter's not alliteration. That's just the same fucking name. And then
Peter-
I'm questioning your parents. So
Peter Parker, though, it's the greatest alliteration of all.
I think so. I think it's up. I think it's definitely, if it's not the greatest, it's top 3. But I couldn't think of another one. You know, and Stanley he had many great other ones too, but they don't compare to Peter Parker. You know, it sounds natural. Some alliteration, it just feels like you're trying too hard. I've been there before. You know, where you're trying to name an event or name a cast, this doesn't work. But so this is something now that I think it's gonna become annual. We did it last year, and we want to do it again because we always like to see where everything is. This is one where you know where the links are. You know where everything is. This is when we get down to brass tacks. Everything's down below that you need to find. We're gonna talk about these certain things already throughout the cast and stuff. So this is for people that if you are big fans of the channel and you want to know where it's going. If you're a new fan, you're wondering, hey, what's the deal? What are your guys' plans? Or just in general. So pretty much what we're going to do is we had a survey, and we're going to go over some of those results. We're going to talk about this year. We're going to talk about next year. We're going to talk about some things as far as content that will be coming out. We're going to talk about things we may change. And that's what we were talking about before, that we try to keep this as fun and raw as possible, as far as we haven't really talked about much of this with each other. So we did this. I feel like, Dylan, are you scared by that? You know, I heard you giggle over there.
Well, the thing that confuses me is I thought the point of this is to accumulate data and then decide what our game plan is going to be for the future. So maybe that's not part of it. Maybe we're just accumulating the data right now. I don't know.
Well, sometimes when we did this last year as well, there's a lot of we talked and then we'd be like, hey, well, let's throw it back to the fans. Now, we didn't do this last year, but I think I've already had it in mind that we will do a follow-up survey in a month from now based on some of this stuff and everything like that, because there's a certain one that I know Taylor wants to talk about that he's really happy about with the results. But I want to still get more context from the fans and the listeners, because I go, okay, if this is something you want, how could we achieve such thing?
Wants to delay
I don't want to no, I don't want to delay. All this is going into next year and stuff like that. But so everything is there. I'm not sure how. It sounds weird where I want to be like, does anyone want to say anything before we talk about some of these results, stuff like that, about the year or anything like that? So far, I'm just happy with the year. It's going good. You know, I'm not sure. We got a couple months left. I'd have to put on pen and paper if it's going to be our biggest year, but I would assume so just by looking at stuff I've did. So a big appreciate to everyone new who listen. Best year yet, you know. Well, good thing this time it worked out, because you said that one time it worked out. Then you said that again. That's when COVID hit, and that was one of our lower years. And then ever since then, it's been top tier and stuff like that. And that's where I don't know for people that are listening the variation, because even someone that did the survey is like, oh, I've only been listening for 4 months, and we appreciate you doing the survey because take time out and everything. But Taylor, you want to say anything?
Gosh, it's just not to get too sentimental, but it's just been an incredible year, because I feel like we're 9 months in and we've just seen such growth. And again, COVID is very, very unfortunate. And as unfortunate as it is, it gave us the ability
Where are you going
to.
with this?
Well, I'm trying to spin a negative into a positive. It gave us the
Townhall ends our
ability to. It gave us the ability to adapt and dive into just more doing these remote casts more often. And just with these remote casts, it allowed us to just pump content out and just really just grind and dedicate ourselves to doing so many more different things: retros, reviews, episodes, news content, so many different avenues to pursue. And so with that, it's just turned into something that I was not expecting. We did twice a week before, sometimes 3 times a week,
sometimes
depending.
3 times,
And now
burning
it's
gas on my end, driving all the way to Travis's place. My gosh.
absolutely. So
It was
now we're
at
in
my place
this-
for 4 months. Everybody calm down.
Yeah, you never had to use gas going to my place. That's free.
Yeah.
It was back when we had a gas card on GV.
That's the plan for the future.
We're getting that back.
Yeah.
A lot of gas for Dylan every day.
That's a long trek. Holy shit.
I'll see you tomorrow, Muds.
Yeah.
So we're in this position now where it's turning into something just consistent, routine, like rinse, repeat, like getting down to it. Like, yep, Thursday or Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, doing midnight review, all that kind of stuff. We got reviews like Thursday, Friday nights, like after nines, like this Saturday or Sunday of the weekend, like this month. Like it's turning into this routine. I'm digging it. I like it, and it's fun. It's great to just get together and do this kind of stuff with you guys. It's great to have the community that we built. I think that's the biggest thing this year is when our community has really, really grown. I feel like it's popped off because whether you're new on our Patreon, you're new in the Discord, or you're new just like on our social media and our community, like, or in this survey, you've put in your input. It's just been incredible to see this community come together with us and put your say into this and talk with us, engage with us, because at the end of the day, that's one of my most favorite things about doing this is being able to engage with the listeners and the fans and everything like that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to you guys too. You guys are legends.
Didn't know you were
welcome,
going
Taylor.
to the whole
You specific three here.
three. Yeah.
You're a legend. No, you.
Exactly.
You're-
No, I was just I was unprepared. I was like, before I should look into this, but even stuff like a big thank you to people that have passed around, because like even our download rate, we're up 166% from last year, and the year's not even over, and that's pretty good and stuff like that. So I don't have too much to say because I think I'll say it most when we start to go over things, but I'm happy with the way things are going. Like obviously we're going to talk about changes and stuff like that, but I think I said this before, where any changes, it's just like additional stuff or just kind of different routes of things we might do. I don't think it's anything like
Big change.
Yeah, nothing. Like I know anytime people think that like, oh, we're talking about change, like, oh, some big overhaul, people are like, no, not really. Like I don't think there's anything massive. And I will say that I feel like from the results this year, there was like a few people like more like, I'd like to see this or you could do this, but I feel like last year, not saying it was negative, but last year had a bit more as far as like, oh, do this, and I feel like we changed a lot of things and did things, and this year it felt like pretty few and far in between. I guess this is what I will say. I said the same thing last year. I will this year. I appreciate everyone that sends in the good comments. I will not read majority of them because I don't want this to be like a ego stroke or whatever.
We'll save that for another day.
An ego stroke, is that a real term?
Yeah, stroking your ego, because I don't want to I appreciate everyone saying the good words and stuff like that, but I don't want it to just be, hey, half an hour we're gonna end, because people, I will say, from the survey had a lot of good things to say, and I will say this, that we might not talk about that on this episode, but each of us have read those and we're thankful for those positive words of people that just keep going, do the same thing. We appreciate that. I always want critiques and stuff, but that's why I'm just saying a thank you right at the top for all the positiveness, because I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to do an hour of just like, oh, they said this and oh, they said that, that's great and stuff. It's like, no, like I really appreciate everyone says that, especially when it's anonymous, even though there's two of you, you know who you are, that did not leave it anonymous, but that's fine. You still have very nice things to say, but it was a good time. So Kirklin, do you have anything to say before we get in this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this year, for so many different reasons, it's just been such a awesome year for like podcasts, personal reasons. Like it's just been totally like 2 thumbs up, which is awesome. I feel like we've done like just a lot of new things again, like that's just kind of been crossing over in like personal and podcast life, like whether it's like the small business side, like me going back to school, doing some different like extracurricular activities. Just it's been a very exciting time, and I feel like with the podcast it's been never slowing down like to an extent, like multiplying and just like even crazier than it ever has been. But I feel like we've definitely got like the best structure that we've ever had, which has made it just so much more digestible, feasible, I guess, for like our own personal schedules. Like, and it's just been awesome. It's been awesome to see, because it has been very hectic, it has been very busy, but I feel like it doesn't feel to that point where I'm just like, this is too much. Like I'm totally just in a great place to be balancing it all. And I thank obviously you guys, just obviously all the support that we've been getting from our fans throughout all the years, and and just going through like the survey and just seeing all those positive comments, and it just it totally reaffirms that we're doing this for the right reasons, and just like totally just pumping out some good times out there for people. And yeah, it's awesome.
You're only 2 weeks into school though, so let's ask like 12 weeks from now. You're like, oh, it's not too bad at all. And
it was like orientation this week, so it was like yesterday was a write-off. it hasn't ramped up yet. So we'll see. The year's not over, as Travis already mentioned, but so far so good, and I don't know, I'm optimistic.
And it's something to mention there, just like another thing to thank the listeners for, whether they're patrons, people that listen to the feed. The good thing is lots of times we can plan to have days off or say, oh, I'm not going to be on this cast, and not feel like we're missing out monetarily because of people's support and stuff like that. There's a time where probably you'd have to feel like you got to be on them all just to make that, but we make a good amount where it's like, okay, I don't have to be on everything. I could take a break and stuff like that. And that's because of everyone that listens and continues to listen. So a big thank you there. But
Absolutely.
Dylan, how's it
It's-
going for? Oh, go ahead.
Whoa,
No,
I'm not done
Sorry,
yet.
I thought you were. I know I cut you off.
I was also gonna just quickly shout out like Travis told you so's. Those have been like just such a
It's
fun
just
thing
Travis
to
told
come-
Yeah, there's no so. There's no so.
Clay, Fanboy Clay, I'll shout him out. He made me screw that up because he said that, and then I would say that every once in a while. Even my last episode last night, I was like, oh man, but
That'll be your season 2.
Travis told
talk about
yous.
that. Yeah.
Those have been really fun to just
Told
like
yous.
go through. I can't believe that, like, you know, the 5 weeks is already done. Just all the
over.
shows that you did like on your own is just, it's so. I could never
hard to
do that.
do.
I feel like do a solo cast, let alone just like consistently like you did. And I mean, clearly,
Well, I like to stroke my
again,
ego though. That's why. That's why I can do
Ego
it.
I'll stroke your ego a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
here, just like there was a lot of positive like reaction in the survey regarding that, so that's just been awesome. Obviously, you know, it supports the GV brand, so big shouts out to you for doing that, because that's maybe I could do that one day, but I feel like definitely not right
Oh,
now
yeah.
at my point in time. I don't know, maybe I'll have
one day.
Matt
Right now,
wait
try
for
it.
5
Talk for an
5
hour.
weeks
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
We're all
parental
gonna,
leave.
yeah, all of us are gonna.
Oh no, I was mid sip. Get me out of here. I was about to remove myself and just have nothing, but I was scared it was gonna end the broadcast.
We're all over the place.
Very
What the
chaotic,
heck
yeah.
happened?
I did that because he's like, I could never do a solo cast, and Dylan's like, do one right now. So then I started to take us all out and everything like
Oh
that.
my god.
Taylor's like, oh no, I'm editing this one. No, don't worry, you're not editing this one because it's not a news.
no, I
It's
panicked. I was like, shit.
No, you're doing tomorrow's newscast. So
Did
good
everyone's
for that
internet
one.
go out at the same time?
Yeah, to see everyone die and everything. It's like that's what happened in the snap. People's internet just like went away and stuff. But what about you,
That's
Dylan?
true.
'Cause-
They're probably doing like a town hall meeting like this, and then all of a sudden it snapped,
100%.
and then just
So always
100%.
those town hall meetings.
Yeah, 100%. Because you know you made your glorious full time return last year around January, February. How's it
Mhm.
been 9 months in? You know, are you still doing fine? You still, you know, this is the place to be honest and stuff like that.
No, I'm doing fine. I'm doing good. It's I won't duplicate what you guys said, but I agree with all that. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun to be back. I mean, think about it. I feel like in any 1 month of this year, I've done as much podcasting as I did probably all of 2021, maybe even half of 2020 in there. Like I was very much on hiatus for a while there, just jumped in for Dune or Tenet or just the odd review that I was very interested in. But it's been a lot of fun to be back, and I mean, it's thanks to the fans and the support that I'm able to do side quests, which is where my heart and soul lies. Obviously, I love all the stuff we do, but you know, the lack of gaming content is one of the reasons why I dipped, and now we're at a point where we're able to support like a whole sideshow just for gaming content. So I'm very happy with that. That's very fulfilling for me, very satisfying. And then it's just been fun getting back into everything, getting caught up on all the news and stuff I missed in all that time when I was not paying attention to anything. And yeah, I mean, even some people in the survey shouted out that they're glad to see me back. So that warms my heart. That's stroking my ego right there. Feels great. Every morning I wake up at 6 a.m. and I read those comments. But yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. I'm very excited to keep it going. Even especially like, I feel like September. I know September's only a weekend, but August and July were insane. I feel like we're podcasting an insane amount. So that's been crazy busy, but it's cool to see that just has an immediate effect and people are liking that. And those were really big months for us. So yeah, doing good over here. I'm nice and happy.
That's good. I will say, because I appreciate the person doing the survey, but just to give them a heads up for the future, that Dylan's name is with a Y. You know, I saw the I in there, and I saw that's a new listener for sure. You know, they were happy. They had good praise for you.
That,
That's,
I
I'm
would say
just
that's
saying-
probably the most common way my name is spelt. I've seen a lot of different. I've seen the weirdest one I saw was DHILON. I think
Oh,
was
that's
the weirdest
elvish.
one. And
That's
I don't know if that
not
was like a
fancy.
Starbucks person like trolling me or something like that. But I've seen the DYLNs, of course. I've seen DYLLN, DILLON, DILON. I've seen it all in my days. So this one, This one is a pretty common one, so I don't blame you. But
That's fair. I never get that. The most I've gone is maybe an E instead of
I
A.
feel like Travis is hard to mess up, isn't it?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
only one, and this is not a mean thing. I think it's just sometimes people that if they come from a different part and they've migrated to Canada, where sometimes they think the A is an E, which is their pronunciation. But other than that, no, it doesn't really happen. Taylor, I imagine doesn't happen in Kirkland. I still don't know anyone else named Kirkland.
People call me Tyler all the fucking
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Well, yeah,
Tyler.
I get Trevor all the time. Yeah.
You get
Oh,
Trevor?
all
You look
the
like a
time.
Trevor.
Goodness.
At
Maybe
work,
Trevor.
it
Same amount of
says
letters.
Travis Snell, and someone was like, it was before I left from my vacation, like, hey, Trevor, and then like the problem, it's like it specifically says that, and one time it was my boss that did that in email, said, hey, Trevor, and he's called me that, and I realized he like made the mistake, and he realized it too, but I just let him have it. I'm like, whatever, just it's fine, don't worry about it. So, yeah.
Kirkland,
yeah,
have you ever seen like someone KYRKLYN? Is that a thing you've ever seen? Throwing Y's in there instead of the I's?
Like spell it for me, or like I met someone with that.
No,
spelling?
just someone who like spelled it that way or put a Y in place of any of weird stuff like that. That would be wild to me, but
Probably for like to replace the second I would imagine that could have happened at some point in time. I've seen some weird ones, and the weirdest ones were definitely all at Starbucks. And I feel like because anytime I say my name's Kirklin, people just assume it's like the Costco Kirkland. So I don't want to
Right.
see that on my
100%.
Starbucks cup. So I'll just say Kirk. That's very easy. You know, I really try and like accentuate on the last K too, to like make it K,
So it's not
because I've
Kurt.
gotten so many Kurts.
Yeah,
And I got like a crack once. It was like KRAK.
Wow.
I don't know if he just misspelled, but I was like, okay,
Nah,
come
he
on.
hated
Like
you.
I'm
That
clearly
guy
not.
spit in your coffee.
Yeah,
that's wild.
ass crack. He was that close to writing on it, but yeah, no. I've never met another person with the same name as me. I met a Kirkland once before, and that was only once.
I would have want to be.
Yeah.
Well, now, speaking of, that's a good. So now what we're gonna do is, so the kind of breakdown is, if you did the survey, we're kind of gonna go semi in order, and then we're gonna bring up some points. They'll bring up any points they want to talk about, and this stuff, lots of it. We've talked to like here and there about it, and we kind of have some ideas of what's moving forward and everything like that. But lots of these conversations will be like we did last year, just on the spot, talking out and stuff like that, because we want people to feel that they're also included in this, because like we've said before, whether it's the feed or Patreon or anything else in between, we might still be here, but it might be your classic like one a week, especially now with us being so much more busy. If we didn't have the support, we wouldn't be doing all these shows and everything like that, which we'll get into and stuff. But I want to get into, because we're talking about the names here. So the first one was like, okay, we're doing 3 casts a week, newscasts. We want to see more of that or the same value, and 84% of you said yes, which is good, because that kind of goes into some of my plans here as far as what I wanted to talk about. But there's something where you guys were talking about each other's names and stuff like that. And this first one I want to show is I definitely enjoy the newscasts that are a bit more casual, where everyone gets to talk about certain topics, but it's not a super organized cast. The one where it's like natural flowing conversation, and that's where I get to listen in. And the other one that was similar was enjoyed the laid back, fun nature of the episodes, which I feel like we try to do, but that's why for next year is at least one thing that we are going to be doing. So as you've seen, we do more newscasts, and probably next year what you will see, not this year because we got a lot of shows and stuff like that, but especially if we can incorporate Jessica more with the certain days she's available, the plan is likely to do a lot more 2-man or 3-person newscast. And what I want to do, I haven't decided if it'd be at the beginning of the week or the end of the week, but what I want to do is in a situation where it was kind of inspired by, I was tinkering around with it, but when Dylan watched Eternals and the idea of, okay, he got to talk about Eternals for a bit, we got to talk to him. So the idea of, let's say, Taylor, like this week or 2 weeks coming up, you got a wedding, right? And you're going to miss a big episode of Andor and stuff like that, and we wouldn't hear your thoughts. My thinking is at the end of the week is trying to do a similar episode that's kind of like the originals, where it is us like try to get as many people as possible, like not has to be every Friday or Thursday, but as many people as possible, the 4, the 5, stuff like that. And that's why, okay, so let's say on Tuesday, Dylan and Kirklin, they're booked for a newscast. Even though there's a big topic Taylor might want to talk about, maybe he could switch, maybe he's going to miss it. But then on the Friday, we would have that opportunity to talk about something like that again, kind of like almost like a recap of the whole week, and then also lead to conversations. Because I know when we do these newscasts right now, I know it is very organized, like we have our, which is, it's so funny because, in the beginning it was like, you guys aren't organized enough. And now people are like, I love when you're more like just free flowing. But I get the idea behind it. And that's where my pitch is kind of that you'll have more casts next year that are probably pretty centric like this, where it's like, hey, you got your 3 topics, this is what we're talking about, cut out stuff. But then Friday, I would like a one or whenever, like a day a week where it is kind of like a recap of the week or the last week, where it's us just, we can talk about the news, but it's not in that official, hey, we got to do this, hey, we got to do that. And obviously that's a bit harder, but that's where it's a sense of, if other newscasts are 2 people, it's not as bad because someone gets a day off there and someone gets a day off and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if where you guys wanted to add on that or just those comments, but that was kind of some of my thought process of what I wanted to work towards next year's do one show where it is everyone together and it is kind of loosey-goosey. And it is, like I said, if, Dylan missed the Rings of Power episode, he could talk about there, we could talk about it. And that the other point I had too is someone, I can't remember where it was, but someone said they wanted to have more kind of the way when we do questions from patrons, they'd like it for the TV shows where we get those reviews and stuff like that. That's where it's stuff for like She-Hulk, where we do those at midnight, right?
Yeah.
And no one watched those. But that's where I thought it'd be good where, hey, Friday we could talk about that again, but that could be like, hey, fans, send in your reviews or your questions about it. So it's like, okay, we do our initial review, but then a few days later, if people want to talk about or have questions, there's that opportunity instead of just like Wednesday, it's over and done. Even if we did it the Thursday night, not many people may have even seen it yet because it's just like work and life and stuff like that. So anyone take the floor and take it away from me. But that was some of my thoughts reading some of those questions and some of the ideas that I had of just things recently we've been talking about having more free-flowing conversations, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, great comment there, Travis.
You can say no. You can say I hate it. I don't want to
yeah,
cast with you guys anymore.
You said a lot of wrong things there. I have to counter. No, I love that that idea of just incorporating more of like the fans' voice on like what they heard of, because I feel like the only time that we really get that opportunity, if it's not in the comments or like interacting on Twitter or something, it would be at an after 9.
Yes.
But of course, not everyone can fit their opinion on there, or maybe not everybody can make it all the time. So then maybe if one of our Patreons wanted to give their thoughts, it's like months later when we can actually get a chance to interface with them. So definitely I love that idea of getting more of those. And yeah, it's fun. I liked how you said, like, in the early stages, we'd never had a structure. And then now it's just, I feel like it's also just because there's so much things to talk about that it's just like we have a limited amount of time to talk. It's like, hey, we got to fit all these things in that we have to hit. And, there is many
multiple
times.
newscasts a week, too.
Yeah.
Like it just.
Absolutely. And back in the day, we would do like once a week, and it was just like, what do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Oh, we've come a long way. But obviously, like I think just speaking for myself, like some of the most fun I've had on the newscast is when we start on like a specific structure, and then it's not like we're veering off on some random tangent, even though we pretty much are. We have a loose structure, but it's just we get so much more, I don't even know, like bone broth out of like the topic than I was expecting.
We were
that
word bone broth. That's what we're gonna call those episodes, the bone broth episodes.
What if instead of bone saw, his name was bone broth?
Bone broth is ready.
You would have to be a little bit messy, I feel like. I don't know why. Just if you have the name bone broth, you sound like a I don't know. You're
probably have a
juicy.
strong scent, I would think.
Yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't be called bone broth. Yeah, that's not good as a nickname. So,
but I think that's all I really have to add on top of that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point, because I think that's kind of where, it's where we started. It was because we were doing one thing a week, and I think a big part of it too is like the show. I feel like changed a lot when we went to the online format. It just changes the way people talk to each other. Obviously, when you're dealing with latency, or it's like, oh, sorry, you go ahead. That like all those kinds of things. And so I think we found like a new structure to the show, a new flow to it, and sometimes I agree. I feel like sometimes we can be a bit too, okay, your turn, my turn sort of thing, instead of just these
100%,
flowing conversations. But it is a lot harder with the online format. So I like that people like those kinds of things. And I think that's a good suggestion you had, Travis, of maybe dedicating the cast more to that idea. And then we also still have the originals as a Patreon thing. But that all sounds good to me.
And the originals is more like for people who go like, what's the difference? The originals is like you could tune that, and Taylor's going to talk about a squirrel going into his car for half an hour.
Yeah.
Like that's where it's just
Marmots.
like that's really sorry for the squirrel community.
The newscast, would still be topical to things that are happening. Yeah.
Opinions, stuff like that, things we'll miss and things like that, or even things like when Jessica says, "Hey, she hasn't seen a movie in like when she saw Top Gun, right?" And that was like weeks later. If she wanted to talk about it, that would be like a place to do it because it's like it's like geek centric, but it's not like you got to hit the breaking news. And of course, we're not saying, "Hey, Friday if a trailer come out, we're gonna ignore and be like, nah, we're not gonna talk about this in the news." But like it'd be like in a just more loose way. But I think you hit the nail on the head as far as like being in person, because even just the cadence of like, oh, I want to get in a point, but online you don't want to do that because it's just you feel like you can't naturally transition in. Where when you're talking with someone, you know they're going to stop, or you know you can work something in and come into it. And we try to. But look at the beginning of this podcast. There's like 3 or 4 times where I like accidentally threw to Dylan before Kirklin was done, right, and stuff like that. We're like, oh right, no, I don't want to start. And luckily my internet's a bit better since I updated. But look, last year my internet was awful, and there were times where people were on delay, and I was like, what, like, and that's where that structure did come in of like, okay, Kirkland's gonna talk, so when he's done, I know, okay, I can go next, or Taylor can go next because my Wi-Fi's kicking me out for a minute or something.
I didn't even have a cam too in the early days. That was like caveman era because like there was no way that you could like I would have to like do, I don't even know, we were on Zoom or Skype or something where you'd have like the hand function when you wanted to jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little helpful, but
a little
You
bit.
had those like early angles, Kirkland, where you were like this.
There's that one. It's like our DC.
I'm pulling it up right
reaction.
now. I'm
Yeah.
pulling it
Oh
up right
my
now.
God.
He looks like he's
I look
in a
like I'm the
hostage
Unabomber,
situation.
like in some
Yeah.
basement somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring.
Just a super dark basement with like a little bit of light coming out. Oh yeah, pull it up.
Yeah, we're getting an ad right here, but yeah, right there, right there. Batman
That's not
trailer
even the one I
ad.
was thinking of.
Oh
You
no,
look like Peter Parker. Look at that. It's
still our biggest YouTube video of all time. But yeah, Kirkland fans are just
biggest
like,
eyeballs in the world.
because everybody's at least like a shoulder length, and Kirkland.
I feel like every single person on this call has a different camera angle. You're seeing every possible view of someone's head.
oh yeah, it's good. And Kirkland just looks like he's the leader of it all. Like, oh, I'll do my.
He looks
bidding,
like the
but-
hacker. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was those. And yeah, luckily I feel like that was a lot last year where it was like, oh, we're still tinkering with this, but thank goodness for StreamYards. That's not going anywhere and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're happy with the
Oh,
service and
StreamYards.
everything like that. So, Taylor, anything to add on this?
I would just echo what you guys have said. I feel like having the opportunity to talk at another point in time on something, I think is very, very fantastic, because there's some things that I might not see right away, like you already talked about, and I think that's very important to be able to get my input or your input, whatever we miss, just out there.
Specifically your
Specifically
input.
my
Yeah,
input,
it's important to get my input out there.
Yeah, my input.
Taylor told you coming this fall.
Oh yeah. The other thing too is when we do like a newscast, like there's some times when it just, roll, like intro scene comes in, intro, and then we just start talking news topics and stuff like that, and it just feels like, okay, yeah, it's your standard newscast. But then there's the odd other newscasts where first like 30 seconds in and we're all just giggly, and it's gonna be one of those casts, and it's always like, those are sometimes like my most favorites, because we kind of get into tangents, and this is where we create like the Big Dan kind of things, and like it just gets so rowdy and unorthodox. And I like those ones because it feels like very, very casual, very laid back, but it's still very news centric, and we're still on the ball with what we're trying to talk about for the most part. So yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to. Oh, and this is where there's 2 of these to go back and forth. Where someone said they, and I'll get in that person. Where they like the hosts, but what was it? The banter there was too much banter or something like that. Where,
Forced. The banter was
forced
forced.
banter,
Yeah.
which is funny because like I feel like that's what the other people are saying, like we want more of that, and that's where it's like we never really forced the banter. And also because like Taylor said, there's times where we come in here and it's definitely brass tacks of like, hey, like D23 this weekend, that's where we do the watch on. There'll be some joking there, but once we get in the cast, that's like, hey, this is a big thing. Or most of the reviews like, hey, this is a big thing we're gonna talk about. Of course there'll be some jokes, but it's never really forced, because it's just feel like we are still friends at the end of the day. So if the thing we're talking about on air, it's because we want generally our opinion, or we're gonna joke about it. And that's where and this was like a bit of like a more inspiration for us as well, but we couldn't exactly do this because their person was in their right mind, but at the said more new segments and newscasts, either mixed in segments or finished casts early, and have like 20 to 30 minute segment at the end, maybe a comedy segment or something. Just a thought, but everything is good right now. And that's where like I kind of get the person saying that I couldn't necessarily say, hey, this 30 minutes is going to be comedy. I can't promise you every time that combined Friday or whatever Monday episode is going to be comedic gold, but that's the idea of like, hey, we could have something like that where again it is a bit more just lax and it's just a bit more catching up and stuff like that. It is a bit more like that's where like stuff like the BS meter I could bring in as like a topic, because like we just talk about nothing but stupid stuff there, like just things to go on. So sorry, you were saying?
I wish I could just turn on my comedy switch, just like, okay, I'm going to be funny here for the next 20 minutes. I'm not privy to that superpower.
We only save it for every, like a certain percentage this month. Like Kirklin this month, you only get to be 7% funny. The rest, too bad you got to dial it back.
I already used it all too. And
You've
it's
been
already
so
early
funny
September.
This month. Yeah, you've
Yeah.
been through it all.
Weekend.
October to December, he's going to suck. He's just going to be really pouty and stuff. So let's see. So anything else on that with newscasts, stuff like that? I know will come up, but anything specifically about that?
No.
So what I want to bring up too is I like that. A big thank you to everyone that showed like the drafts and stuff. I'm happy about that because we did a lot of different ones this year. I think I've pretty much hit my max of like I will do more drafts if we figure them out. I think I've just like I don't know what else there is to do. I've been tinkering with the idea of like making prediction casts, like kind of a draft cast, because we always do the predictions, but one thing is we never follow up on them. We never talk about like who got what right and stuff. So I thought about like a variation of that. But the only thing I want to talk about here, because we brought this up many times, is with the video game draft. I wanted to talk about, because we had brought up, hey, Kirklin about 4 months of the month, he had already won because delays and everything like that. I want to open up the bidding to like, what could we do to change that in the future? Because
there is a website that has a much better one where you can drop games and add games as the year goes on and things like that, and it's like a fantasy draft website, but specifically for video game stuff.
Okay.
So,
That's
I mean,
good.
I know other podcasts use that, so I don't know if we want to come up with our own patented system, and I'd be down to think about what that would look like. But, I mean, there is a website that could make one that's maybe a bit more engaging, because, I mean, it was fun, like for the first few months, as the new games were rolling out, to look at those numbers. But, yeah, then for half the year, it's been kind of irrelevant as we already have a winner. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that was. I mean, I think it was good for how long it lasted, but maybe there's another system there.
Yeah, my two thoughts were either like that, where either you have your list of 5 and then you can, like, we have like a halfway point, which would probably just be halfway through the year, because that's usually when we do these. But like you have a halfway point where either we'd pick up or drop some, or you already have the 5 and then you like draft an additional 3 games or something like that on top of that. Like that's where I'm like, and that was fun. I'm excited because obviously, yeah, it looks like Kirkland won, unless I think it's impossible.
He
now.
won, yeah. I think
It's impossible. When we got the fall coming out, and that's the thing where it's like things like God of War. I don't think, did anyone end up drafting that? I don't think so, right?
I think someone did. I
think it was
might
maybe
have
you,
that,
actually.
but
I think
all
it
my
was
other
you,
stuff's
yeah.
gone. Yeah.
But there's certain games where it's like no one draft because they thought I was going to come out. Then if it is coming out, like you learn more stuff throughout the year. Stuff that was surefire stuff goes away and stuff like that. So I wasn't sure.
They're trying to lower your odds of winning next year.
No,
That's
no.
their plan.
They can try.
We I think it's more in the sense like it's fun because the other drafts you can update throughout the year and be like, oh hey, there's this, and we'll still update the video game ones, but it's hard to update when it's like, hey, Kirkland is still winning now just by this much, and this much.
Yeah,
and
I have not brought it up in like 3 or 4 months because nothing's changed. It's
So
I tell everybody I meet.
yeah. At
You hear
first
I-
aid school.
I won. Yeah,
part of
that's
your
exactly what I said.
ego stroking ritual every morning. Yeah.
Big round of
Exactly,
applause.
yeah.
They like lifted me up. It was an awesome first day.
But do you guys have any preference on what you would like to do? Like Kirkland's gonna say keep it the same and stuff.
Yeah, keep it the same.
But I think
Stop
also
the count.
because I think also because I think next year if we were to keep it the same, everyone would just pick games in the first 3 months, because Kirkland cracked the code with that of those are the games that are coming out where everything's going to get delayed. So all the back half games we wouldn't. So
Yeah.
where are you on sort of like what could we do to spruce that up next season when we redraft?
I mean, I'm totally down to find a way to work around like the game delays, because that's just something it is fun to like, you have to balance what you're risking, for that, but also like the case of this year, like there's just there's so many ways for others not to catch up to the one in the lead, and I like to make it spicy because it's fun to like talk about it. If it's just no contest, it's okay. Well, we'll wait till next year till we redraft, and better luck then. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any draft, is susceptible to some cheese. I mean, even look at our
Oh my God.
superhero one
I'm
where
so
I picked
mad about
She-Hulk.
this.
And post-credit scene give you points. I'm raking in the points right
Dylan's
now.
won.
Things are
Dylan's
looking
won.
good.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way any of us can beat you now if She-Hulk is in every single of those end credits.
So now we got to add the precursor that next year only the final episode of a season, I guess, would be the.
or
thing
like
to do.
maybe one like you get 1 point for an end credit, so you could be in multiple, but if you're in one, you
I
only
see.
get 1 point and stuff. Yeah, I would be down
Right.
making that point. Now, do I think that's ever gonna happen again? No, I think it's just luck of the draw, and that's why I'm fine. Dylan gets that win because like this stuff is unprecedented. That just like we're gonna have She-Hulk in 9 different end credits. I'm hoping for someone else tonight when we review it, but no, it's just racketed in there. But what about you, Taylor? Any thoughts on, and even if there's any other drafts and stuff like that? But I feel like because like we have the movie, the MCU, and the superhero one. Those ones are kind of year spread and stuff. And even I guess with the movies, we got more lucky because we actually lost quite a few movies on that list though. Like when you look at it, I think there's like up to 7 when it's like, man, what I thought was more secure the movies, we still lost quite a few. But with the gaming, it was a bit more tragic as far as the losses there. You're still waiting for Star Wars Hunters.
I need to review the. Well, I want to relook at the game one and the movie one because I couldn't find them in the drive where we access them. So
Oh no, I gotta make that file because I think I had that in Notepad, so I'll do that this week because I think
okay.
soon we're probably due for
the
like
gaming one on my notepad thing.
Okay.
yeah, I think soon we're I should be doing a newscast where I update some point system and stuff like that because I haven't done that in a while for the listeners. So
Okay, because I'm stoked on the movie one. I got Avatar lined up, 100 days as of today. It's good. Well, we're recording this.
fucking
so
Top Gun is what ruined it. Kirklin hasn't won that one yet, but if he wins it, it's because Top Gun came out of nowhere and became the 7th biggest movie of all time or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
So.
That's
Yeah.
a damn good
Ridiculous.
pick then. Yeah.
As far as it goes for doing like drafts and such, like I'm totally all down for there to be like some extra kind of like things kind of unfolding that kind of change the dynamic up a little bit. Whether it be, I think like if you pick a game and it gets bumped, that's the risk. It's delayed. That's the risk. Your game's dropped. But I do think that maybe like quarterly kind of reward system could be in there, like, oh yeah, every 3 months, every quarter throughout the year, you get like one like a trade option, or you can get like an acquired option. Like if you got a game that's delayed, you can pick a new game to add into your list. If none of your games have been delayed, then you can get a point to swap one of your games out or something like that. So no matter what, everyone still sticks at that 5 mark.
I like that.
Full
I do
fantasy football rules.
Well, I
going
like the
into. I
quarter
love it.
system. I like the quarter system because there's always stuff that gets announced you never know of, right? Like something like Outlast Trials. We knew it was announced, but it's like it's still not coming out this year. But when we thought it might be, it's like that was just randomly on a September where it's like, hey, we're showing it at I guess not September, what as Gamescom and stuff like that. So I wouldn't mind the quarter thing because that could limit it to of like dropping one or swapping one and stuff
I
like
think
that. But
another thing too could be just like instead of the points being like if Elden Ring gets a 95, you get 95 points. It's like if Elden Ring is in the 90s, you get 3 points or something. If it's 80s, you get
That's
2
true.
because
Yeah, I like
something
that.
like Kirkland, you have Saints Row on your list. That game got awful reviews, but it doesn't even matter because it's just like that. The numbers are so menial between like a 60 and like a 70 that it almost is, like as long as you have 5 games, you win. So it's just like it just matters who got more games delayed essentially.
plus,
But,
it's easier for math, just putting 5 and 3s together
Right.
instead of 9. So I do like that idea of if you hit the.
you would have to think about the actual balance of it, but something like that.
I think we could just do it almost in like school letter grade, almost. Of like or even just like 90s to 100 is the top score, 80 to 90 is that.
Kirkland's
Anything
back in school right now, so he knows all
Yep.
about those letter grades.
yeah, anything under 50 is like a 0 or something because that's like gonna be just a rotten or bad game, right? So okay, that's good to think of because we'll be doing that sometime in January, February. So
But I'm glad people like the drafts because I agree. There's some really fun ones. Shows too. I think mostly Travis who came up with the ideas for the new ones this year. I think they're all fun. So
I tried, I tinkered, and I know because that's been the most consistent thing. That last year they asked for it, and then this year they asked it. Like
Nice.
they say they like it, but it's good because I think people like that it's a mini way for us to compete too. Because the whole
definitely.
year round we're already like me and Dylan are watching anxiously for the D23 Fantastic Four panel because there could be lots of points given there. So that's an exciting time.
It's easier to organize than Gauntlet stuff as well.
less time
Yeah.
consuming. Yeah.
Yeah, to compete.
Well, okay. Thank you because I didn't actually have that in my notes. I want to talk about Gauntlet. So we did we stuck to our word that we did the 4 events a year. The 4th one's coming in November, which is always the charity stream and stuff like that. But that's where it's just like, again, it dawned on me when we recorded. It was the last one where it was me and Taylor versus Kirklin and Saris, and we were supposed to record something that we just kicked to the charity stream. But it was a good thing because that's one of my favorite matches. Each match was super close, but that ended up being like a 2-3 hour day and stuff like that. I remember because we're like, oh, we're going to record this team titles match, and then we'll record something that I don't want to say because that's on the charity stream, and that'll be done, everything like that. But then it was just like, because the setup and because everything, and you know at GeekVerse, there's always problems when they're setting up. There's always some camera that's not working, some microphone.
Computer crashes again, crashes again.
And that's where it's too, like, you know, Dylan is remote. You know, people like Briggs and Kyle don't really game anymore. Connor's remote. Saris, luckily, he's taken on. He's always appearing though, so always a big shout out to Saris. He's always coming up and stuff like that. But yeah, that's where Gauntlet it's gonna be coming to. It's like official, and I'm never gonna say it's dead because one day I hope in 10 years when this is I'm trying to be nice on the timing. I think it'll be less than 10 years. But when this is our full-time job and we can do more of the streaming and the gaming and everything like that, I plan one day to bring that back with a passion. But it was also, for me, the person that edits those, I realize now, having the kids and the job and doing more of the GeekVerse stuff, because I feel like the days when I wasn't editing or doing additional podcasts, I could edit a Gauntlet video and edit the entrances. But even the entrances, I was like, man, it's like, it just takes so much time. And that's where it's like, it's fun, but we've always talked about this too, the monetization on YouTube. Very, very little. And it's something that like they always do well enough, but they're nothing like spectacular or stuff like that. So that's where it is going to come to an end. And like it's a bit of a bummer, but I think it's just like a good time to end it as far as the era. So the two things are for the charity stream, as usual, beginning of October, you're going to get lots of announcements and stuff like that as far as events. But that's what we're going to do is we're going to do a big send off at the charity stream. So you guys get to think about this because we're going to do a podcast one day and everyone gets to throw down the gauntlet of who they want to challenge one last time in a rematch from someone they've faced before. Now, Taylor and Kirklin, you're already having your Call of Duty match. That's separate. So if you want to challenge Taylor in something else, then sure. And then we're doing our title match, and then we're going to do one last time as well, me and Taylor versus Kirklin and Saris, because they've never beat us, but each game has been always down to like the smallest points. There's a few
Mario
little
Party?
previews.
Is that what we're doing?
We're doing Mario Party, we're going to do Overcooked, and we're going to do Rocket League again. We're running all three of those back because all of them were super close. And I said this to Dylan, I said this to anyone else, go watch that Overcooked match that we had.
That wasn't close. That was a sweep.
Remember the first match was close. It was only like 2 points away, but the second one, when Taylor took those plates, yeah. But,
I don't remember those.
So two things I want to do are, we're going to do like a big send-off and stuff. And we're still going to probably do like how we do different gaming streams, like when we did Marvel Ultimate Alliance, the full day thing, or like if we ever do another charity thing. I'm not saying it's just Extra Life from now on. It's just like if the Gaunt thing, we did the 4-year, it was fun, but that's what we're going to do. Like, Kirklin and me and then Taylor, we're going to have this triple threat match. Winner's going to take both the world and sports title, unify them. So that'll be the last, who are the last champions there and stuff like that. But what I also want to do is sometime in October, and I think it'll be a Patreon special, I want us to get on here and just watch and talk about some moments and stuff like that, like a send off that way, because we did that top 10, but I want to like pull up the share screen and talk about just certain things and give you some behind the scenes. Like I want to talk about the time like Dylan's bad guy run that never happened. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about different teams that were proposed or different matches that were like supposed to happen but never happened because Briggs was gone for 6 months or Kyle moved, like just little things like that, or the story between, most people know it, but like how we did the whole me hiding as Taylor and Briggs's match and that dynamic of me dressing up as Taylor. Like there's some good moments. So I kind of want to send it off with a bang as far as the charity stream and just kind of one last look back at it and stuff like that. So
that's right.
One last ride for the Gauntlet. It was a fun time. We spent many hours at Custer Dome creating some good memories, some good memes and stuff like that, and it'll be a good thing. So I'm happy you mentioned the Gauntlet, Kirkland, because I want to shout that out. Yes. Yeah, of course. What was the other thing I wanted to talk? There's something here. Oh, this was the next one too. So in the next comments, this was good, and I appreciate this. We asked how often do people listen to the solo feed. So obviously we have the GeekVerse feed, and then we have all the feeds for our news, retrospective, reviews, and side quests. This was a whole mix of I don't listen to any of the separate ones at all. I listen to them 3 times a week. I listen to them all the time. So this was just like a gamut of like, so to me, this just, and someone says like, hey, I'm on Patreon, I don't need that, or I just listen to everything on the main feed, and that's fine, and that's where we'll just say that in the future, especially next year, if more content happens and you ever feel, hey, I can't keep track, that's why all these separate shows will have, like the newsfeed has that, SideQuest has that, because that is the main feed and that produces the most downloads and monetization. But some of those episodes really pop on the other ones and stuff like that. So it's good that it feels like the listeners are kind of just, it's up to them. Some people use it a lot, some people don't. And if you listen to everything, great, we're happy about that. But that's where it's like, if you don't, those will be, and anything else we do in the future will kind of be there. So I'm not sure if you guys have anything to add on that, because like I said, the results were kind of, I think, mixed in a good way, that everyone's just kind of, it's all over the place as far as what they, some people just only review feed, only news feed, only I listen to SideQuest. Like, it's a whole mix of different answers and stuff like that. So
I feel like I'm not too surprised by that as well. Totally understand. Like it'd be a mix of, like, some people only listening to the main episodes, so why would they have to go and watch like the cutouts? But like, not everybody has time to watch a 3-hour cast, and sometimes if you want to start a cast, like, oh, I'm gonna come to it, and then you got Travis told yous every single day, so it's like, oh no, I'm not gonna go back to that one. I gotta just keep watching the next episode. So the cutouts are a lot of people that I talk about, like, the podcast and explain the cutouts, they just think that's an awesome idea too. Like, I've only really gotten like positive feedback from it. So
and some people said it here, because there was two things I want to bring up, that someone was talking about them, I really liked them, and then another person did say, like, hey, those can clutter the feed. And 100% I do get that, but that's why we always say, I say subscribe to those, because the cutouts, they've done very well for us, like, monetization wise. And there's tons of people that do, like I've said this before, if they just want to listen to one topic and not the whole thing, it's there and stuff like that. And for anyone that goes, why don't you do time codes? That's the reason why, is because it's these are always completely honest. If we did time codes and you would just skip from there, we'd make no profit or anything from an hour of a cast, because you would just completely skip over. Even if you hear a second of an ad, like a second of it, and you hit skip, that's fine. That's a that helps us out. But if you completely skip it entirely, it doesn't help us out. So that's why the cutouts are there, for one, just to get people to listen to other things, but two, it does help as far as us on the back end as well.
Yeah, I like to think that it gives people a variety of ways that they can choose to engage with our content, and I understand if that main feed can be a bit intense sometimes.
Yes, 100%.
Tons of stuff on there, but hopefully through things like the cutouts or those extra feeds, it gives people a way to at least limit that, or switch around, or we say this too, like sometimes if the main feed maybe a bit too intense for you, like unsubscribe from that one for a bit, subscribe to the one you're interested in at the moment, and whether it's a retro thing or the reviews, whatever it is, and come back to that main one. Come and go as you please, that kind of thing. So hopefully there's at least a good variety there for people to pick and choose.
Yeah. And then anything else, Taylor?
Just echoing again what you guys just said, like, I think the cutouts are great. It's hones in on what people want to specifically listen to. I understand that, again, like you guys said, it could definitely get cramped up there, but that's the
like those
beauty
E3
of having...
Comic-Con weekends are like, poosh,
tons
of stuff. Yeah.
That's the beauty of having these different like separate feeds, because if you just tune in just for the newscast and you don't care about the cutouts, you just want to listen to the whole episode, then boom, there's a news feed right there for you. It's great. Same with review, retrospectives. It's fantastic.
And I wonder too, because there's sometimes, like, if there's when I look at, we had this, for example, like on our review feed, the Nope review did better than it did on the main feed. And I always wonder if there's like a version of people that are just like, they only listen to one of those feeds and they've never heard the other stuff. And luckily when you search GeekVerse, like everything comes up, reviews, SideQuest news and stuff like that. But I wonder if there's anybody that just has subscribed to like the review feed and that's all they've ever heard. They don't know we do newscasts. They don't know we do retros or video game stuff. It's just that. And I think that must be the case for like a small percent of people.
There's someone out there.
There's someone out there that just thinks we just review movies like once a week and that's it, And then if there's
Probably
no
someone
movies,
that just thinks that we do Gauntlet. They like only discovered our
Wow,
YouTube
that
stuff.
would be crazy. They'd be like, why does this YouTube channel have 1,000 other videos and like none of them are Gauntlet?
They never
At
update
one
the Gauntlet
point.
stuff.
At one point, it was a lot. If you go back and you look at some of those early Gauntlet videos, some of those matches like got up to 200. Those, like, man, I miss the old YouTube algorithm. It was so much like more thankful to some of the stuff we did because people would find that stuff so much. And the tags, back in the day, the tags you could put, like, if you've ever worked on podcasts, if you haven't, I guess, I mean, if below the video there's like tags and you put them in there, and then when they did the rebirth, it was like, oh yeah, you could put tags there, but it doesn't really change anything. It's like, man, those tags used to be great back in the day. They would give you so much stuff. Like, they still help a little, but it just is not the same. But yeah, well, I'm sorry for those people that just tuned in for Gauntlet. The season finale is coming up. I say the series finale because if it comes back, it would be a revival. But the series finale, what is the date of Extra Life? I think it's November 5th this year. November 5th on a Saturday. Before I sound like a car, so. So, Tia, I think I kind of cut you off there. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, and then after that, it was just like general thoughts. And again, most people are just, keep doing what you're doing, keep at it, stuff like that. So again, we appreciate all that. We like there's just a lot of just, hey, we like what you're doing, keep it at. So thank you very much for that. I very much appreciate that. Now, Dylan, I know you talked about side quests on here, but was there anything you want? Like, there's one thing I wanted to bring up, but was there anything specifically you wanted to bring up here as far as to tell, kind of to reiterate for these people or to say anything to us, etc.? So.
Yeah, so if you go to this week's episode of Side Quest, which is called like Fall Gaming Preview and other stuff in the title, I at the start of the episode, me and Kirklin talked about this more in depth, kind of breaking down every point. But I think, the main thing is people seem to like the structure, I would say, of what Side Quest is right now, and just want more variety, more other stuff. So I think that maybe the big change for me, and this probably really won't happen until the new year, but it's more retrospectives. I have a lot of plans for doing those more frequently, timing that with upcoming game releases and stuff like that. This year we have a couple coming out, Plague Tale and God of War, but just so slammed for the rest of the year that I think it'll pretty much just be those two. But yeah, I think next year that'll be a bigger thing and probably have like a retrospective at least once a month, I would think. And then, we've talked a lot about what is the future of SideQuest in terms of the structure. Right now, it's like we release pretty much an episode every Tuesday, but then there's some busy weeks where there's a second episode or maybe just one review for a small indie game is kind of drops somewhere on like a Thursday, and then there's the main episode. So I think I'd like to get to a point next year where we're doing 2 episodes a week, and then we could maybe more focus on covering more news stuff, which that was a thing people talk about, is they want to see some more gaming news coverage, which I totally agree. Sometimes I just am not talking about things, whether that's I feel like I'm too late in the news cycle on it, or sometimes I just feel like maybe there is a news thing that I just don't have tons of backstory on, so I couldn't really give you a nuanced take on it, and I feel like there's other podcasts that would give you a better coverage of that. But at the same time, I know a lot of people maybe just listen to us, and so they want to get all that update from us. So
I heard your opening. I don't think you give yourself enough credit, because you're like, I don't tackle news all the time because I feel like other people are doing that. But I feel like it's also got people want to hear, like you said, like your thoughts on it and stuff like that and everything. Which again, I'm not saying you got to go talk about like should Jim Ryan and Phil Spencer fight to death in a yard or something.
Did your
like
contract
that,
now? You gotta.
Yeah. I don't know. I just with
maybe the
SideQuest,
TMZ of gaming.
There's, I mean, as any of our other content, like there's 1,000 other podcasts out there that are doing the same things as us, and so SideQuest, especially coming out now, like I want to try and carve a bit of a unique pathway for it. So, but yeah, I mean, all this feedback I very much appreciate, and are things I will either continue to keep doing or will look to add more of. Travis, what was that one thing you wanted to?
Well, there's two things. When I'm going to say that apparently, like the cast you and Kirkland did in Lord of the Rings was a hit, because that came up multiple times in the survey, so people really like that. And I know that maybe
which I also, that was the one really scuffed audio episode. My mic was all fucked up, so I hate that that's the one that people are really into, because I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. My audio is messed up. But
that's like me. That's like
I
me
like
anytime the echo cancellation's on for StreamYard, and I'm like, I did a whole review. I'm like, oh my god, I sound like I'm in a tin can and stuff like that. But no, what I brought was already what you're gonna bring up, where it's like, I think that's why what I like about SideQuest is like it's uniquely your show, and like that's what we wanted. It's like for you, because like I said, you're the most knowledgeable person I know in gaming, and we want that. And that's where it's like I compare it a lot to whenever we have these spin-off shows, is we kind of have to grow in the same way with GeekVerse, where when GeekVerse started, it was 1 episode a week, and it was, if we had a movie review that week, it'd be that, and we would miss a whole bunch of news. There was times where, and that's where we end up doing 2 episodes, because there was times where if we had like 3 movies back to back, that's 3 weeks of, and that was the time where we were doing video game and movie news all together. So it's like there'd be game news, there'd be movie news, TV news, and it's like, that's why I remember some newscasts back in the day could get up to like 4 hours, because we were like trying to catch up on stuff. So that's where I feel like, and that's where it's, again, whether it is the listeners on the feed or Patreon, the more we grow, and that's where I honestly, I haven't really tinkered with this yet, but what I want to do is, because we're going to get to this in the Patreon section, but what I want to do is, we've never really done the thing, there's like a goals thing where it's like what our goals are if we hit these certain amounts, and I think that's something we'll implement next year of like, hey, what certain amount could we hit for that? And that's where I think like with side quests, it's like I wouldn't want you to change what you're doing right now to say, okay, do news or do more retrospectives. I think that is the goal, because we talked about this a few weeks ago, like talking about news, because I talking about like, you know, you're doing a bit more part-time work at your job, I am at my job and stuff like that, where it's a good, I think like it's a better thing to have side quests where it is, and then to add on to that instead of like making that force in or making the cast longer. As far as I think, like, and I don't want to speak for you or speak for everybody, I feel like the 2 episodes of side quest, if things keep going the trajectory we are as far as GeekVerse, is possible in like the next 12 to 16 months, like having that, you know, the main review, or even if you don't have a review that week, retrospective, which is tough for you because they take a lot longer. The Lord of the Rings one, we can put it in an hour and a half, but a game like with God of War, you got to commit tons of time. So it's like, even with the reviews, it's like, it's tons of time. It's not as easy. So that's why it's like, we're still trying to gauge the beast of just even that, you know?
Well, yeah, that's why I'm glad people like that kind of themed Lord of the Rings episode, because yeah, that did not involve me having to play hundreds of hours of games in preparation for that episode, and kind of just look at it more from a nostalgic lens, which I think is what people like. And someone mentioned specifically a Star Wars episode, so I heard you loud and clear. I'll bring that to you at some point. But yeah, I think definitely expect more of that for certain series that are maybe just I just don't have the time for right now, but it's so I'd like to talk about what we have experienced. So look forward to that. And then I guess maybe I should mention this, but we have the pie chart here, which is how often you listen to side quest. It's 42% each for depends on the topic, and rarely / not at all. And then only 15% down there at every week. So I definitely want to get pump those numbers up. You know, what is that Matthew McConaughey gif? You know, rookie numbers. Let's get
Rookie numbers, yeah.
And you know,
don't worry, that's not the word. That's not you don't. We got a different pie chart coming up that's lower than that, so don't worry about that. You know,
for sure. Well, I mean, and I get it. A lot of people just don't care about gaming stuff. Most of our audience is here for Marvel, DC, and Star Wars. Those probably be the big 3, so I get it, but yeah, I want to convince people. I either give it a chance, or you know, if you are just listening, depending on the topic, like I want to convince you to like listen every week. I try to make every single episode as fun as the last, and try to have like some cohesive threads of like, okay, maybe did a big review for this game this week, and then in the next week, like, okay, I've actually finished the game now. Here's some more thoughts on it, and try and keep things going like that. But I understand why people don't listen every week, but I want to make them. I want to make them.
I'll make them. Yeah. Well, that's the 2 things where I want to, especially now that we got that feed establishing going. Like, it's no secret. Like, we do like advertising stuff like that. I want to try and find a time where you can actually find those people that, you know, that is their main bread and butter, and give the show a shot and stuff. And that's where I bet those people that are the depends on the topic are probably the news people, because Dylan and I've talked about this privately, where it's like, that's why with us, with even GeekVerse news, sometimes it's just like those downloads are high because like people don't have to watch a game or sorry, other way around, watch a movie or play a game to listen to that. If there's a topic, they can just download and anything. Where if there's a movie that they haven't seen, they can't get in that. If there's a game they haven't played, they can't listen to that, and they're going to miss that week's episode and stuff like that. But that's where it's, again, we have to grow and stuff like that, right? And that's all part of the plan, because luckily you guys and gals are keep supporting us and everything like that. But
shout outs also to the Elden Ring fiends, because those are the 2 biggest side quest episodes of the year so far. The first review, and then the spoiler cast review on Elden Ring. So
I was surprised
fans, they're full of fervor. I love it.
Not for the first one, but the second one when you did a spoiler cast.
It was like 2 months later. Yeah,
it was a long time later, and it was like it's one of the biggest episodes of the year. And like I said, I'm trying to check right now, but I'm pretty sure the Elden Ring it's in the top 10, that episode. So that's like people are there for obviously some bigger ones and stuff like that. And that's the time too where it sucked this year, because you had like a lot of bigger games as well get delayed and everything. Yeah. And that's where it's tough also for you at the retrospectives, and that's where games like a different beast, where movies get delayed, but games and stuff get delayed so frequently. Sometimes it's hard to plan that or life around, you know. So, but Taylor, Kirklin, anything to say on side quests or anything like that? You guys have, you know, appeared a couple times here or there, but anything you'd like. Here's the same thing. We asked the people anything you would like to see in the future, something like that.
I mean, just more of it. Absolutely. Dylan's totally in his element doing the shows. I love going on there. I've been on there a handful of times, and we just have so much fun talking about I feel like a lot of the times too, I'll go on there and Dylan will just be able to relay so much like news and information that I was just completely unaware about, and then like I leave the episode just feeling so much smarter in that topic. Like he just is, you're just so
You're too sweet.
naturally gifted in relaying that information. So I definitely love that you're doing the cast, and yeah, as I already said, like you're just so in your element in it. So it's been lots of fun listening to it, and also just being on the episodes, because yeah, it's especially as I mentioned already, like the podcast is just, we have like more things to talk about than time and like time in the week to talk about these things. So unfortunately, like we just couldn't really like talk about gaming as much anymore. So it's nice to have that space that like that's all we can really talk about, you know, or not. You know what I mean? That's all we get to talk about. So yeah, no, I'm loving it, and definitely just more content there. Definitely, you know, one day I would love to be able to commit to so many more retros. I'm excited to talk about Plague Tale with you, but I'll check that one off my list before I start committing to more.
That one's a nice 10, 12 hours.
Yeah.
One thing I'd be curious about too is, no one really commented on this, but you know, usually side quest is me plus one other person. There's been a couple episodes that have had 3 people. I don't think I've ever had 4 actually so far, but yeah, I'd be curious to know, like, do people like that, like the more intimate conversation, or they want more people in the mix? And also, like, I'm not gonna be offended, do people want episodes without me? Like, I know variety is the spice of life, you know. Do people
That
want
just sounds wrong to
episode-
me. man. It's side quest without Dylan, you know.
Well,
That's some weird
I mean,
stuff.
it's not Dylan's side quest; it's GeekVerse side
Yeah,
quest.
yeah,
It'd be
of
like
course,
if
yeah.
Travis told you, just Taylor was there one day. It's like, what's going
Never
on? here?
happening. You guys
I like
can
this
host,
guy,
but
but
not Taylor.
something's not right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'd be curious to hear about that too. I think we probably have a couple of those. Like, I think the Call of Duty review sounds like that's happening. I don't think I need to be there. So that might
Yeah.
be a side
Or
quest
Gotham
with just
Knights,
the
I
two
think,
of
is
you.
another
Gotham
one.
Knights as well. So we'll get a couple of those. So maybe we'll see how people like that. But
Oh, there you go.
you
Whoa.
go.
Who's going to be the hosting seat for that? But anything on the gaming side, content-wise, stuff like that, side quest, etc., all the stuff we've mentioned, apropos.
Yeah, I think it's a great show. I love that I get to talk games going on there, because yeah, most of our news episodes are just so they're topic oriented, like DC or Marvel, or just focusing on all these other things. And there is not really much time to talk about games, period. So just to have this show dedicated to that, I love being able to guest on there, whether we're talking like Xbox, like platform, like fighting, like roster,
good.
stuff like that. Like there's a lot of passion getting into it, and I really, really appreciate and enjoy that. So yeah, I get moving forward. I think it's great to just do like more episodes like that Lord of the Rings one, just kind of like getting into those like themed episodes, and yeah, just keep running with it, because yeah, it's fantastic.
Well, there you
Sounds
go.
good.
Expect more. So, you know, speaking of pie charts, this is what I want to talk about. So this is where it's always interesting, right? We got the survey from last year and then the survey from this year, and whether it's new people changes and stuff like that. So we did, you know, comic version. How often do you listen to comic versions? 15% said every episode. 26 episode says depend on the comic. And then 57%, 57.9, so almost 58 said rarely or not at all. And that's the thing where it's funny because like lots of people, oh, go ahead, Taylor.
I just want to say, I feel like this is the case of it just being like, what's the word, like too far in between. Like
Yes.
there's not enough of them, so it's not enough to pull people in. I feel like if
people
it was
might
like
feel
a
like they haven't
monthly-
been listening, even though it like just hasn't been an episode or something.
Well, it's
right?
true. I feel like if this was like a monthly release show focusing on different comic runs, I think that would be enough to like rope people in, because at least it's concurrent enough. Like, oh, this time they're doing Ghost Rider. Oh, next they're doing like Vision or Wanda. Like, I think that's
Had to
enough.
throw Ghost Rider in there. didn't you?
Always.
Well, yeah, you took the words out of my. I was gonna say my hand. I didn't have my hand. I don't got a
Oh,
script
yeah,
here,
I
but
did.
out of my mouth. Where, yeah, that's where that's. You know, with Gauntlet, I say it's ending. That's not necessarily ending. What we're probably going to do is, for majority of next year, put this on hiatus. This is a show that I really want to break out the same way that Taylor did, where we would just be, this started last year. It's like, oh, we should read this comic. And then we just did, right? We say, hey, we're going to do this for you. We read in a couple weeks. I would like to bring it back. And this is more like people, you know, even patrons don't get to see this. In my notebook iPhone, I have a dream schedule mapped out for when we're part-time, full-time, and everything like that. Of like, what could be this day? I'm a fucking crazy-ass planner. So that's why I'm like, oh, these 2 days could be this could be that. And that's where comic versions, when we get to these things, and this is the other thing we talked about last year, which we'll be doing more, is we're going to do more mass record days. And that's because of you guys, again, supporting us, we can do that, where it's going to be, hey, in a day we're going to sit down and find out who's on what cast and kind of record like 2 or 3 back-to-back in 1 month, so we're kind of stockpiling good. One, it's good for you, the patrons that do support us, you can get some stuff early, but also with comic versions, why that'll probably come back in probably the future. I'd say, you know, maybe like end of 2023, so it's going to be a while, but like we're recording lots of stuff. I'm going to talk about the end of like retros and everything next year, but I would like to do it in a way where, hey, the next 12 months, these are the things we're covering, and then people that are interested in reading have a chance to read. Where I think that's another thing too, because we would decide more willy-nilly or kind of like, oh, we should do this. We wouldn't give them enough time to, even if they wanted to download the Marvel app or DC app to read along, we wouldn't give them enough time to even, because they can't. It's like same thing like a movie or game that they haven't read or watched or played. They're not going to check it out likely if they haven't got into it, right? So that's where I'm trying to find the balance of last year, like, hey, you guys should do more comic book stuff, to this year of like, hey, it's kind of, you know, more of the lower tier things and everything like that. And it's something I love doing. We had a fun time doing those casts. I would love to do them again, but I think that that's a good content to bring back in the future when we are doing those mass record days, because it's also something we can do in advance. We can't do current reviews in advance. We can't do newscasts in advance, but stuff like that, retro, are things that we can have and prepare and have that content. But I agree with you, Taylor. That's where I kind of envision it coming back one day. Is definitely going to come back one day, but just more in a sense where it is very laid out and consistent, because we never had, because our kind of schedules based on like the shows, and sometimes we wouldn't have a date, right? So even if we kind of just did, okay, no matter what, in February we're going to do this comic book, doesn't matter what's out, stuff like that, we'll try and time it close to an Avengers movie or something. But yeah, Kirklin, has the other person been in the comic versions, anything to say on that one?
No, I think you guys nailed the nail on the head. Hammered. Jeez, you hit the nail on the head. There you go.
Took a
Quick
nail,
try.
tried to
Yeah.
that'd take a while, you know.
Nail to nail content. No, yeah, I'm
Mail to mail. Yeah, we're bringing that. Don't worry, pictures. Mail to mail content. Yeah.
comic versions. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's been so much fun like going through those episodes, but yeah, I'm excited for when we can. I was gonna say do it right. I feel like we did it right on those first few episodes, but just like
How many
able
episodes
to,
exist of that show?
I think 3.
Less than 10.
Okay.
I think 3 to 5, somewhere in there. We
3
did
to
House of
5,
M. We did Loki. We did 2 Batman ones. Yeah, we did 2 Batman ones. So and I
Oh,
feel like we
yes.
might be missing one. So there's definitely 4, maybe a 5th one.
Let's see if I can pull it up.
You did a
Yeah.
Hawkeye one, right? And
We did do
House
Hawkeye,
of
so
M.
that's 5. Yeah, that is how. Yeah,
There
so
you go.
yeah, the House of M. Yeah, so we did do 5. So and
So-
they were like well downloaded enough where it wasn't like, oh, no one's listening to these. But it is a smaller tier audience, obviously, because lots of people don't even read comic books at all for those properties. So
5. Is that what you got there, Taylor?
That's a 5 right there.
5.
Oh, I thought you were
those
gonna say something.
fingers
Those a hand up.
looking very alive.
The fingers were on the
No,
nose.
it's been so much fun going through those comics because I think everyone we did I had never read before, so it was very new to me and lots of fun to talk about those. And you know, no one's ever truly gone, just like the comic versions. We'll meet again.
no return one day, and then maybe
I
when it
would-
returns,
I
you
would
can
like
jump on
to,
those still. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd like to make
Yeah.
an appearance for sure. I also, this is maybe I just had this idea right now, but my dad has like this collection of Marvel cards from back in the day.
Oh.
And they have like, the picture on there, they have the names of the characters, and they have like stats and like biographies. That would be a fun special episode to go through that binder and like
Yeah. See, that would be
like
good for
comic
that
book
like
versions of like associated sort of thing.
yeah, or even like that catch-up newscast day of just like Dylan's gonna bring his dad's cards and we're just gonna talk about them and stuff like that. That'd be
I
cool.
remember that's why I just remember that Silver Surfer. His stats are just like maxed out. That's why I've
Right,
always thought
yeah.
he's like the most
Rightfully
OP.
so.
I think I maybe brought that up before, but that was like how I knew about Marvel as a kid, was just looking at these cards, not seeing them in motion, but just envisioning what all these characters did. So that would be fun to go through that.
Oh yeah, no, I'd love to do that. So
I'm gonna miss the thumbnails comic book versions. Those
oh,
were
the
always lots of
thumbnails,
fun.
yeah, the Taylor's great Pornhub parody logo and stuff like that. Yeah, but they will, like I said, this is a show. It's on my dream schedule. So in the next 3 to 5 years, when we're doing this part time, full time, it will be back, and I have every intention of making that happen, because I got like I'll wait till the end of that one to bring that up. But I know that sounded very strange. I'm talking in tongues right now. But the next one, which is I guess kind of good, but like because it was all over when we're getting about. This was just for patrons. We asked what show they liked. 54% was After 9, 27% was Bread and Butter, and then 18% was originals. That just kind of goes to, I think, what you kind of like. And also, I completely know that there's probably some people that are on Patreon that haven't listened to the originals because that's at a higher tier. So those shows are going to continue. We're going to, like, seems like most people like them, at least as far as we talk about feedback. After 9 obviously is a fun time. It's great catching up with people when we can. And I like originals when we can just talk with each other. And Bread and Butter is good because that may be something that maybe in the future might even become a main feed show, because if we have main topics. But we used to do that all the time, where back in the day we'd just, like, if we had no news, we'd pick a topic. But it's almost like Taylor said, there's not a time where there's no news or movie nowadays. It's just all the time where it's like, okay, we're going to talk about when we did like our top 10 favorite fictional characters or stuff like that back in the day, right?
Predator in the Tree.
Yeah, Predator in the Tree. Where nowadays and usually the only time we do that is when we have a rankings retro for stuff like that. So, yeah, nothing. I don't have anything you guys have to add or say or inject or anything on those 3 shows.
Yeah, I guess just something quickly from the thing before, like that they get to vote on the Golden Geeks and voting on the movies that we will watch. So yeah, I think that's not going anywhere. We love doing that stuff. So
Yeah, and that's going to happen more next year, too. Like I said, you guys got Halloween and Christmas and a video game movie. So there's times where we're going to get more, like how you guys somehow picked Megamind for the Brad Pitt retro.
Yeah.
That was out of left field. Did not think that was going to happen. Thank you, S-Bubs. But that's the thing. You guys are going to control, especially next year, you're going to control lots of our content and stuff like that. So here's one we'll get into, and this is where, not necessarily a debate, but I know Taylor's been waiting for this, because Taylor, there's something he's been bugging me about for years and stuff like that. Oh, we gotta do this more and stuff like that. Many conversations, and we said, would you like to see more GV merch, TV shows?
TV shows.
We're working on it.
No more Gauntlet, but
wearable
TV shows.
shows.
Yeah, the movie
Yeah, the
will be
future.
coming in the next 5 years. I
Shows.
promise you.
A shirt with a GIF on it. Yeah.
Yeah, the busier we get, it's harder to get those scripts movies done, but it will happen eventually. You know, it's all in the cards, all in the plan. But so 17% was no interest. 23% was depends on the item, and then 56.8 or 58.8% was yes. So this is something where I've gone back and forth and this is where we'll have to talk about in the future, and why we might do another survey, because I'd like to ask people, okay, well, what type of merchandise would you specifically be interested in? Because we have our t-shirt store and stuff like that, but that doesn't like crazily move like product or anything like that. And there's always been times where, we could do that, but it also costs something. So that's where I've always been like weary of it, is because we are, at the end of the day, as to be honest, we're a small business. And every year you got to be making a profit. You got to be not on the red, the green, stuff like that. That's where I've always been like, hey, do people are interested in the same thing with me? Like, I don't think I own any single merch from a podcast, but that's where Taylor comes from, like a different perspective. So I know, Taylor, you're happy to see this, but what do you think about as far as the merchandise wise? Because like I said, I want to open this up to more people in another survey to say, like, okay, what would you actually be like with a t-shirt? Would it be something like just our sayings? Would it be something like when we did the Endgame poster? Because I think that to me is more like beneficial of, you know, you made this great Endgame poster with us parodying it. Like, to me, that's stuff where I could get behind, but that's where I don't know. So Taylor, the floor is yours on this, because I know you're a big physical merch guy. You love all that stuff.
Oh, I'm a sucker for the merch. Yeah. This is again something. Yeah, like you said, I've been pushing for this for such a long time. So I'm very happy you put it in the in the survey.
I listen.
But just looking at even like with Patreon has it set up for content creators to try and create like physical rewards for different tiers, and they just make it a not like a break the bank method, but a way that is affordable for everyone, the patrons, the Patreon creators, to just kind of like create this content so that everyone can benefit from it. And so when I look at this kind of stuff, I think, like the Endgame poster there behind the balloon.
Oh, great. Good job. The balloons in front of it right now. Yeah.
I think that poster's fantastic. I absolutely love it. So I mean, whether it's stuff like that, or just like our logo on mugs, or like sayings logo on shirt, and like looking at the stuff they have like mini prints, which is like a 4x6. They have stickers, which is pretty cool. They got the mugs. They got tote bags, posters, shirts. They got like neck bandanas, long sleeve shirts, hoodies, all stuff on Patreon that we could like explore. So,
and that's where the ego stroking thing comes in, where I guess that's where I'm always like like not turned off by it, but I can understand someone getting the iPhone and hitting download. The fact that someone might want to buy the Endgame poster, I'm always like really you want like a My Ugly Mug potentially on this poster, and people have bought shirts before, so I know what happens. But that's where I'm always like, is that like really a thing? But you know, some people that voted apparently said yes. But where are you two on this sort of like? And even if we started to do more of this in the year, what would stuff you would want to see?
Yeah, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, I mean, I work for a company that sells branded merchandise. So I mean,
Yeah.
I know about it. Like to me, it's just we don't have the volume for it to really be worth it. Now, if fans are very interested, then I would be inclined to go down that route more. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. Like it's hard for me to say. Like, is someone saying yes on this survey mean that they would buy a poster tomorrow?
Yes.
Or does that mean that they would like to look at our merch store and be like, you know what, probably not going to buy anything. So I don't know. It's a tricky thing. I think I would need a lot more responses for this yes to like mean for me that we need to really go down that route. But
Yeah.
that's
What
just
I-
my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, like I think the best route would to be maybe like do something once and see, you know, ask people like what they'd be interested in, see what we do once, and see what the reaction to that is.
Patreon
you know?
does have like timed campaigns you could run too.
Yeah,
where,
I
like,
have no
this-
idea about the Patreon campaigns, so that's something I've not.
I've looked
looked
into it a
at all,
little,
so.
and I drew the line. I said to Taylor, because he's like, "Oh, it'd be a great idea." I said, "Well, prove it to me. Do it unencrypted." You never did unencrypted, so you never came back with that.
Well,
info.
because I don't. I have rewards on cryptids. Like just I'm
it
not getting
physical
any
merch stuff?
patrons. Yeah, it's physical merch. We got.
What about me, Taylor? I'm a patron of Cryptic.
I gotta
Clues.
get you your postcard and your sticker. They're kicking around here somewhere.
Take
Do
it
I
on,
not
hang on,
matter
Brendan.
to you?
Yeah.
I'm still
Take
waiting
a-
for that part 2 of the D&D campaign. I was driving with that. Where's my part 2?
Yeah, Ruben's working
Okay.
on it. But yeah, we got like Cryptic Clues postcards too that
Oh, I
you
love
get
it.
too.
Wow.
It's
Like,
going on my fridge when I get it.
Oh, what about you, Kirklin?
I mean, yeah, I mean, first of all, I absolutely love merch. I feel like a big chunk of my closet is honestly just like band merch and just other things. I mean, I'm always rocking my Manscaped shirt. So like I want, like as a fan, I love merch, but like on the other side where it's like, yeah, I understand that we have to make that healthy balance of like making it work financially because it, you know, it does put a cost on us, but
I don't want a postcard costing us another show. You know, I don't want something like
Yeah.
that. You know?
Exactly.
If we
the
can go
delays co-
neutral on it, good to go.
Yeah.
Like that's fine with me. But if we're losing money doing this, then,
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it worth it?
But like that being said, like I'm it's awesome that like that was the result of that poll. I'm curious if it is like the example that Dylan laid out where it's like people that would buy it right now, or do we just want a nice looking shop to go browse around on there and not
And
actually
please
commit?
tell us from this episode, like,
Yeah.
it once you hear this, whether it's you want to do it solely a DM, like on Patreon or on Twitter, or you want to put in the Discord, like just publicly. Let us know if you're hearing this. Like, no, I absolutely would, because I know people did like buy the. It's a catch-22, right? Because we had that charity extra life stream shirt that you made, Taylor, which was really nice, and people bought. But we also gave those proceeds to Extra Life, right? So that's the thing. Okay, do people buy this shirt because they like it, which I think it is a good design, but are they also buying it because I'm also supporting GeekVerse, but I'm also getting something cool in the sense of stuff like that. And I wouldn't be opposed to. I think this year Extra Life do that again. That's great. I love giving away the shirt. I love having like a variant of the Extra Life charity stream shirt because it's just like it's a good cause. I have no problem giving the money towards charity that way. So. That's a question to like, okay, what was the motivation for the shirt? Because they liked it, or because they wanted to support sick children, which is a great cause.
Yeah. So yeah, I think like there is attention on it, so it is something that's worth revisiting. And who knows, maybe we'll just get again further details on like what they specifically would want. Because like for me and a few of my friends I've talked to, we want hats. We want those GeekVerse hats. That's what I'm gonna be pushing
That's
for.
fair. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, one day I don't know, hoodie, is that too much to ask for? We'll see.
We can do a hoodie
but
on
Yeah,
TeePublic. You can do
I
that.
love merch, so I'm all down for it. But yeah, I want to see more of it, and I feel like the stuff that we've already done, it's been awesome. Like everyone that I know of has gone it, like love the material of the shirts and everything, and the designs. Like it all looks really good. So, it's all about just, I don't know. We're not a big box store company that can just drop out thousands of shirts. You know, we got to find that.
Yeah.
Well,
and plus,
it's-
I have no problem saying this, like something like T Public where people pay for a shirt and stuff like that, we get about like $2 back from every shirt. It's not a huge amount. Now with Extra Life, we cough up the extra money because, okay, well, it's for the kids, it's for the charity. We have no problem doing that. But with those, it's not like it's like, oh, when you sell a shirt, it really makes it like, it's different because that's a whole company doing and stuff like that. And I know when we're talking about this, is probably going a different route of getting more profit, but that's why it's like lots of these situations, the profit cut is like so little. It's like, that's why, it's been more on the back burner for me, because it's like, how much time do you invest in it,
Because again, with some of these too, it's the way I see it, like they're not coming into T Public just trying to get like, oh, maybe I'll buy the shirt, maybe I won't. Because if they're going on the Patreon, they're getting all the digital content we provide. Then they're also getting that incentive of like, hey, here's some physical merch. And then for us, that's an extra bonus because then that's marketing. When you or someone walks around wearing that shirt, like then they're doing us justice. Because like, look at Kirklin right now. He's doing Manscaped a huge bonus by wearing that shirt. Yeah. So it goes a long way. So it's extra. There you go. It's an extra perk for us as much as it is for them, because they get to rep the shirt or the merch or whatever they like for the show that they love. So, yeah.
Hats we should look into, because I feel like a lot of people would get a hat, like as far as the stuff. But that's where, like I said, we probably will do a second survey, ask a few things. If like same thing with SideQuest, I'd ask like, hey, we need to say retrospectives. What are some specific, like someone shout out a Star Wars one? What are some other games you'd like to see Dylan cover? Same with this. Okay, if you do actually want merch, that's something like, what would be something you'd be willing to? Because you're like, yeah, I'm not like, there's no T-shirts that interest me, but something like the end game poster, sure. Something like a mug, sure. A hat, and that's where, or that could be your time to be like, you know what, maybe I was wrong. Maybe that I don't need merch, and I'm not going to take offense to that. That's why we ask you these questions, because I don't have, like, I just buy wrestling merch. That's pretty much it. So I understand people have their kinks of like what they just like to get on clothing and everything. So. After that, there was the podcast network stuff. That's going to be stuff that's covered in the future, because go cheap plug on the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. They have a pin survey. There's a similar. Theirs is a bit bigger because they got 6 to 7 shows over there, but it's similar. So please go do that as well. So it gives them some guidance. Obviously, we're a part of that, and that's our network. We produce and everything like that. But like, go give them guidance as the actual host, because they want to see what it is. So go give a whole thing over there. And then there's a bunch of overalls. And I was gonna say, and this is one thing I really appreciate, because last year I feel like there was a few more people, not too many, but a few more people that like brought up the ads, right? And then I explained fully like what happens with the ads, how it works, and stuff like that. And this year I was proud that only one person put in something about the ads, as far as like there's too many of them, which I've always said I 100% disagree. Or no, sorry.
There's not enough. We're putting more in.
I 100% agree and everything like that. But that's where it's just because, to break brass tacks, we would, without that, we would not be doing like retrospectives.
We'd be on the streets.
I'm not going to go that far. But I remember last year with the survey, we talked about, hey, we might start doing retrospectives a bit less, because we just didn't have the time for them. But now that we do, we're doing them again more, and people have been enjoying them and stuff like that. So like retrospectives, newscasts, like the thing with the newscasts and the cutouts, those make so much profit for us, because that's current stuff, and there's multiple things to it, right? Not every review, like when me and Taylor review Barbarian this week, we can't just make it the Batman or Spider-Man or Elden Ring. We can't know, oh, it's going to be a breakout review. We can't do that. With newscasts, we can. And that's why with ads, they have forwarded us to do an extra ones. Things like SideQuest, that show exists because of that, and that's where it's like, I've always said what our goal is. We do one, like every half an hour. And that's the tough thing, where an ad sometime could be 15 seconds. It could be 30 seconds. It could be a minute. And I do understand where that's where, of course I'm frustrated. And that's where it's like, at a time when we are bigger and stuff like Manscaped, which I'm grateful for, because those are ads we can control. We can control how much they appear, how long they are, and they feel more natural and fun. Because so many people have messaged me and said, like, I don't even skip the ad for that, because it's just like us making some stupid jokes or stuff like that, right? So that's why, like, I can't say anything bad about iHeartRadio or Spreaker, because they've given us this platform. But that's part of the deal, where you're going to advertise the stuff, but also you won't get to pick the size. So if we say, hey, for every half an hour, there's going to be what we would have in there. There's like 3 ad breaks. Sometimes that could only be 15 seconds. So sometimes you be getting just 45 seconds for 30 minutes, which I don't think is that bad. But then sometimes you can get up, I think the highest amount is like 4 minutes. That's what's like, damn, that does suck. Yes, you got the skip option. I understand why people can be like, oh, well, it sucks. But still, That's the best option. If you can't afford a Patreon, I completely understand. I'm not saying go over. I'm not trying to bully you. Well, if you don't like it, get that ad-free feed. No, listen to how you want. But that's just like our perspective of why it happens. And I will say this as well too, is like the way it works is sometimes those ads get skipped and stuff like that in lower months. So that's why you never know with the amount we have on there. Sometimes none of them even play. And that's where people go, oh, why do you have an ad break? There's no ads. And that's just like, well, whoever it was, we got screwed and they're not playing anymore. And luckily, we explained this last year, and I think it went over pretty well. I think the person we explained it to here, my theory was maybe they were a little more on the trolley side, or they didn't like some of the stuff. Because, well, here's one thing that I will say, and this is where you can never know through text, right? Because we asked about shows and specifics and things like that, and one of their answers was, and we don't know who they are. It's anonymous. It's just they get linked into. You can see who does the individual response. And they said, do you listen to this show? And they said, no, better things to listen to. Now, here's my response to that: it's through text, so I don't know if you just weren't meaning that to be rude. If you were meaning it to be rude, though, I will say this when we talk about money and profit and Patreon, all this stuff. If you took that as like a shot, or if you're anything like you talk about the Lord of the Rings controversy where, you're sexist, you're racist. I've always said this. If you're an asshole, if you're any of those things, I don't want your money. I'll do a lot for money. I'll do a bunch of casts. I'll do Patreon. I'll work to the bone. But I don't, and I think I speak for everyone here, we don't want money from jerks. And I'm not saying that as you. That's why I'm giving this conversation of you put in it and you said, oh, too many ads. That's why I'm explaining why the system is. But hey, there's better things to listen to. That's not constructive. That doesn't help us at all. And we see it, but it's like, tell us why. Tell us if you don't, think that's a way. Let us know. We're always open. That's why we did this anonymously, so you could do that, because I know some people might feel bad. But that's how they work and everything like that. So I just wanted to stress that and say that as always, because there might be people that are new and listen, hey, how do the ad breaks work and how do they function and stuff like that? And that's the reason we do them, because they do support us. I'm not sure if you guys have anything to add there. I just wanted to put that out there because I think I like to bring it up every year, just because there are new people that might want to know, hey, what is the deal with that?
No,
So.
very, very well said. I like to think that we are giving you a ton of incentive to join the Patreon, and that solves that issue for you in theory. Now, obviously, if you are always just on Spotify and stuff, and you don't want to have to go through the extra barrier of clicking on different things,
Yes,
totally get it. There is more barrier there, but still, we're trying to make that as appetizing as possible. And at one point in the future, hopefully, we can be at the point where the Patreon is big enough that we can take those ads out of those episodes and change the structure, but we're just not at that point yet. So, other than that, I just double up on what you said there, Travis.
Yeah, and that's the big thing where we want to grow the patrons, and that's where we're doing the 3 episodes, and that's where next year I think you'll get a lot more of that, especially when someone like the days where if it can line up, where in the future where Dylan's doing stuff part-time, I'm doing part-time, there could be more than just the 3 episodes there, because we know with podcasting and the feed, that's free. We know if you are on a Patreon, we know you're literally spending your hard-earned dollars, just whether it's to support us or get that feed. We know that's the biggest step. So that's why we want to even boost that up as much as possible, so you feel, hey, if I'm paying $5 a month, I'm getting a good bang for the buck. So right now we have the 2 shows up there and calling into After 9, and that is something I plan in the future that will grow. We'll put more up there. Like if we were doing this part-time and full-time, you'd be probably getting weekly episodes and stuff like that. So it's on a conscious effort for us to keep growing that. It's just always a question of time. But the more support we get, that's why I try not to make it sound like a cheesy tagline, but legitimately more we can go. So Taylor, Kirklin, anything to say on that front?
I have nothing more to add on to what you guys said. I think you delivered that very nicely.
Oh, thank you.
I would just say cable TV's done a lot worse.
Some of these people don't come from that era, though, Taylor. You got to remember they didn't grow up that way.
That's true.
Before you complain to us, go complain to your local cable company.
Call Ted Turner.
Pretty much. I just think that back in the day, and if you aren't part of that generation, it was 2-minute, what felt like 2-minute ad breaks for a half an hour show, and multiple 2-minute ad breaks. Yeah, for 22 minutes. And, the downside to that is you're paying for cable. You're not paying for this podcast.
If you're on that feed, yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. So, if you're looking for sympathy, you're barking up the wrong tree with me.
Well, and I do appreciate there has been, I felt like a lot of people.
The cable company's going to say when these people call them.
I appreciate because I tongue-in-cheek
Barking
shared.
up the wrong tree. Yeah.
I tongue-in-cheek shared a review that we got a couple months ago, and I do appreciate because I felt around that time we got one of those like 1-star. Oh, you just I remember because Taylor, it was a Halloween review, and it was like nothing but ads, and I checked. There was 2 ad breaks in this. There's one at the beginning and one at the end. It was an hour and a half cast, and we didn't even have this structure. There's nothing but ad breaks. So they at most maybe got 8 minutes of ad, and it's probably not even that. 8 minutes of ad for an hour and a half of content. And I appreciate because there's lots of people that like reviewed and said like, stop like, no, like screw off. Like we get what they're doing and stuff. And people understand this is like. It is for all of us now. It is a second job. It literally is a second job. We are listed as business owners. We had to submit IDs and stuff this week and everything. Like there's a card right there of our bank account and stuff like that. So it's something we have to look at. So the only quick thing I wanted to finish off here because we got 20 minutes and we got to do She-Hulk is just stuff for next year. So I already talked about this on Trust. Told you I'm going to bring that back November. The first week after Extra Life. I have not narrowed down a date yet. That the plan right now is to do 1 to 2 episodes a week, but the plan is 1 episode for sure, the minimum. 2 maybe, but in those months where that's what I'm not doing September, October, where we have 4 shows we're reviewing, I can't promise you that I could do that twice a week. But I think it's probably going to be like a weekend show or like drop like a Monday morning because I like talking about box office and stuff like that, and I'll kind of round up. And again, I think everyone that listened to that, and then the other thing on that front is that next year, my hope is to do some sort of wrestling-related spin-off show. Like, it'd be tied to GeekVerse, but similar thing, be recorded on a weekend. I'm not drudging any of these guys, making them have to watch wrestling. So the good thing is I've talked to 2 people that I'm not going to announce them now because things still got to move forward and got to make sure it happens and things like that, even that I'm on board. But I'd say it's very likely because that is popping off in the real world as far as stuff going on. And a big thing because truthfully, I always said this last year, where I used these 5 weeks as a test to see, okay, what would it be like if we had daily shows? And that's where I think I'm pretty confident in next year there'll be a couple of us. Like, the goal is for some people to do it part-time, and then the other people do it part-time, and eventually people do it full-time and continue down that train, and that's where it has to go. And the 5 weeks for me were testing, like, what downloads are like, monetization wise, and same thing with wrestling. It's like, I know that's not a main thing for us, but what's the interest there? And there's enough interest that's most of the people I interact with on Twitter, other than movies, is about that. And I know people were liking that in the live chat and stuff like that. So my goal is to have 2 hosts because there's also a possibility I want to, if I ever need a day off, that it's not me bringing down the show. That I, like, if I'm not there, a show can't happen. So that'll be in the future. But my idea is January because that's when the Royal Rumble happens. So look out for that. So the gimmick going to become its own thing. S-Bubs asked this, and I want to address this for other people too. They asked, would commentary tracks ever be coming back, or would that be, is that just replaced by retrospectives? And it's tough because I remember last year at the survey, commentary tracks when we did our rank, like it was like rank all the content we did, and that was last. And it was much like After 9, where the people that didn't like it didn't really enjoy it, and the people that loved it. And the commentary track was lower. But I feel like there's certain people, like Matt even this week brought up this score. I know Carl brings it up and stuff like that, where I know people really like those. I don't think it's in the cards for next year, but I promise you that's in that chart of that like dream schedule. I would love every Friday to how to end a week is people to pick a movie, and that's how we end the week is we watch a movie or something like that, or a show, because those were some of the fun. Like I think people appreciate like when we did The Mandalorian or when we did the Star Wars ones, because there's so many like memes and like funny things that we still refer to back today, or even when we do watch alongs of Game Awards or Comic-Con. I think people like that's the loosest we are, I think, in those situations. So that might happen. I tinkered with an idea of maybe like, because we do After 9 every month is maybe like I would put this to the patrons is like, what if we did once a quarter, like one of those After 9s being like a movie night, and we all, people vote on it and we get together and watch and kind of bring it back that way, because that's already Patreon exclusive. So because I know people, they keep bringing them up. It is a smaller group, but I always want to try and do that. So I think that is in the cards to do a little bit next year, but I would love to, like I said, when we get more part-time, full-time, to make that maybe not even a weekly thing, but just a monthly thing or a bi-weekly thing of us having a good time, picking something and watching it in a time where we could watch it with a bunch of people live too, like whether it's a live chat or stuff like that. So I'm not sure you guys have any thoughts on commentary tracks, etc., stuff like that. I'm dying.
Yeah, definitely don't want to see them go. I just have so much fun. Like
they've been gone for a year though, so they definitely went somewhere.
This, yeah, I guess so. It's been so busy,
Yeah.
It seems like it's been.
We still got to finish the
so
Spider-Man 2 and 3. We never did those. We never finished those.
In time for No Way Home,
Yeah.
super edition, the next edition they do.
in our 2019, if you look at the chart, and there will be another Feige phase chart for next year because I want to do the logos, everything. There's only 3 things we didn't do from that. It was the BVS and the Spider-Man 2 and 3 commentary track. Everything else we did, but those ones we just didn't get around to.
Tis is the way of life sometimes. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you said. Like those ones just naturally feel like the most laid back and like just what's the best way to say that? Just like I don't know, we're just flowing. Yeah, exactly.
We're
Fluid.
flowing. We're flowing the
we're
fluids.
flowing in the bone broth.
Oh, no.
Bringing that one back.
Back to this.
Yeah, so I think that was a great I don't know, not workaround, but just alternative that you pitched. I think that's a great idea because just again more interaction. I love interacting with the fans. There are some phenomenal people out there, so definitely I'm totally game for that scenario you laid out.
Like when Espos found that other Venom movie that wasn't Venom, and we're like, like we all joked about that. That'd be
On
a perfect
air.
one. Yeah, on air, where it's like, you know what, that'd be a perfect. Let's watch Venom all together and see. Like, definitely those movies that are the so bad, so good route of like, I'm not saying let's fucking watch The Artist as the commentary track. No, you got to pick something a little bit
Eyes wide
crazy,
shut
so.
with the whole
The
stuff.
That would've been
Artist.
great.
I've never heard of The Artist. What is that?
Yeah, it's a Best Picture. I think won Best Picture in 2012. It's a black and white, pretty much silent film and stuff like that.
Huh.
So yeah,
2012. I've never heard of that. That
yeah.
is
I
wild.
wasn't a fan. I was rooting against it, but I was wrong that year. So
Yeah, I think that's one that I almost think of similarly to Gauntlet in that I think we've put those up on the podcast feed, but that's mostly like a video content thing, and I think we've just tried to turn our efforts more to that podcast feed, and that makes more sense. But I do think Patreon is a great place to kind of revive that or keep that alive. So yeah, I'd be down to do some more of those. You got to get the right movies though, you know, for a lot of things I don't think it's the best option, I will say.
like Mortal Kombat, you know,
Like Mortal Kombat when you're very tired.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, anything.
Yeah, I would just say that I feel like this is a core component to GeekVerse is doing like these comm tracks. I think it's been around for a while, and I think it hasn't been done lately, but I just feel like it's developed into something that's very it's a good friendly gathering, and that's something I too really enjoyed when we were able to do that with patrons, where we did those watch alongs where they got to pick a movie
that was
and we
fun.
watch
Yeah,
along with them. So.
Yeah, we stopped doing that because they were just so hard to schedule and stuff like that. But that's where that would be a good spiritual successor, is doing 1 after 9 every 4 months of like, hey, we're gonna get together and have a good time. Yeah, because we did Scott Pilgrim, the infamous Scott Pilgrim with Hansi, when Taylor's computer was just like destroyed, and it's an hour of him just trying to fix it and everything like
horrible
that.
time.
Oh, it was horrible. And then we did the Flash movie with Carl, and we
good.
did Us, Aaron Braden, and stuff like that. So yeah, that could be fun. And then finally, just talking about some stuff for next year. We talked about newscasts, everything like that. So for retrospectives, I don't want to reveal them. Patrons, you will get them earlier and stuff like that, and I'm going to tell you guys off air for you don't know. But there was one comment about doing DC shows. Look out for retrospectives. You'll be very happy with one of the things we're doing next year as far as that. But I can say that we're going to be doing 6 franchises or series next year. Some of them are a combination of just like 2 to 3 movies. Some of them there's 7 of them. And as we've already mentioned, we've talked about this before for patrons, we will be January starting to record the X-Men animated retro. So that'll be recorded in January. And we're going to be recording 2 every month starting next year. They're going to be divided in each episode. We'll cover 3 to 4 episodes. So patrons, you're guys going to get that month early, and then when the show is getting closer, we'll start releasing on the public feed. We're going to do that with the other show as well. But yeah, there's going to be one retro near the end of the year focused on one actor who, maybe is always looking for some light, and stuff like that. Dylan didn't get that reference. Maybe he's a scientist himself or something like that. There's a little hint at the end. So we've talked about in the future of like doing we did that with Nolan, right? A director-centered one, but director and actor-centered one. And I think people that like GeekVerse will be happy with the actor choice that I thought was a good one to kick it off with as far as who it could be. But look out in January. Patrons will get everything in January. That first week, I'm going to release a video. You're going to get a hype video of everything come in with dates, plans, everything like that. And yeah, that's 2023. Where there's not much changes, but just some stuff being added, some more scheduling. And yeah, so is there anything left that you guys have a question yourself or want to say before we end this town hall?
No. Covered it.
Meeting adjourned, I think.
Meeting adjourned.
Hell yeah.
Get that bone broth. But yeah, we thank you very much. Like I said, there might be like another. My voice is starting to go, so that's why I'm talking quicker. You can hear it. There probably will be like another mini survey of asking certain things and stuff like that. So look out for that. Nothing as earth-shattering as this one. But we, again, just want to thank you for, if you listen to this, you kind of get a mindset of what we think. After this, too, if there's anything we heard, we go, hey, I want to know more about that. If it's not the tease stuff, because tease stuff you got to wait for. Can't give you that yet. But other stuff, just more questions, we're an open book. Even if you don't want to, I know it would be public, but you can DM us privately and stuff like that, and criticism is never bad. If you're gonna say you don't like us, well, I can't give you much more there. If
Don't
you don't
DM
like
me that. I don't want you to DM.
If you don't like
"Fuck
me,
you, Taylor."
don't watch Travis Told You. That's a disclaimer every time. If you don't like certain things, if you don't like Taylor, they don't check out Cryptic Clues and stuff like that. But that's all we can say. So we thank everyone for tuning in. We thank everyone for this year. We're excited for the rest of the year and next year and future and everything like that. And we promise it's not gonna be boring.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.